Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Pots and Petals here, everything garden and allotment related. Now as you can tell by the sky, we haven't got quite as hot of a day as yesterday, so I'm hoping to get quite a few of the jobs done that we found on the plot tour from yesterday. So I'm going to give these beds a really good weed over today. We've got loads of bindweed and creeping thistle in there, and it's also time that the parsnip came down, so I don't want the parsnips to be self-seeding all over the place. I did manage to tie up the sunflower that got knocked down, which you can see just there. I just popped a bamboo cane in there and tied it up, and in that bed we've also got the garlic, so we've got quite a bit of white rot there, so I want to dig those up and see if we can find any bulbs to store. And in general I think today is just going to be a bit of a tidy up day, so come with me, see what we can get done and get this place looking a little bit more presentable for the summer. We've had a few rainstorms, so I've been on and off, haven't been able to film a huge amount. But as you can see, I've tidied up really nicely down in this corner. I had to get that teasel out, and I've given this area a really nice strim. And then whilst I was strimming the driveway, I did notice a couple of self-seeded sunflowers down here. Now, I don't think that one's going to last too long, but this one looks quite strong and healthy, so we're going to give those a little go. I've just got to watch out when I drive in and not run them over. Just got in under the apple tree and I've given that a really good weed. The lupin, I've hacked that back. I'm hoping it might give off another couple of flower spikes, but it's mainly pot marigolds, and they should start to germinate in all of the soil and the spare space in there. I've given the sweet corn a really good weeding, so they're not competing for the nutrients or the water. And also the pepper bed down here, so you can now actually see what's growing in there. I do need to stake those two sunflowers up in the corner just over there. I've got the bamboo cane, I've just got to tie them in. I've also started hacking back at some of the neighbours' plot. I don't think there's anyone actually over there, I think it's abandoned, but I have just cut back some of those thistles and the nettles just to minimise some of the seed heads coming over. I know I'm not going to stop all of them. And I've also given this bed down here a real good weed, so these are the dwarf French beans, and then in each of the corners on the poles we've got a sunflower, and they're coming on really well. I'm not too sure of the varieties. I know I've got a mixture of reds, yellows, oranges, and I think I've got a couple of purples as well. Given this area a really good doing over. We had the parsnips growing in this bed and it was absolutely rampant with the thistle. I will put a little shot up of what it was looking like beforehand. And yeah, the parsnips, probably three meters long. I'll put a little bit up of me laying it in the area where I park my car just to show you how big the parsnips were. But that's filled up on top of the compost heap now. And I've just got to now think what I can put in this bed. I'm thinking maybe some beetroot, some spring onions, just some quick crops that I can get in the ground. But I am conscious that the parsnips might have taken up quite a lot of the nutrients, so we might need to think about adding some compost onto that ground. Whilst giving this bed a really good weed over, I've realised that the onions really haven't done too well this year. They haven't bulbed up as big as they normally do. And a lot of them are actually quite deformed. I don't know whether it's due to where I've planted them and the lack of sunlight, or whether they've got allium leaf minor In the past I have suffered from white rot with the onions, which is why I planted them in spring this year, but I also have a problem with the garlic with white rot, and I planted them in spring as well. So overall it hasn't been a great year for me in the bulbs. I will dig some of these garlic up just to show you what the white rot looks like. It hasn't helped that they've got rust as well. It's been quite shady in this area with the pear tree, so I don't think it was the best area for the garlic to grow. So next year I really need to think about where I'm planting the garlic and the onion on the plot and how much light that they're going to get. So down here we've got the garlic harvest, which I haven't done too well this year. The bulbs that are fine are on this side. They don't seem to have swollen very well. They're not very big compared to previous years. They are from saved bulbs, so I don't think I'm going to save these. I'm going to buy fresh next year. And then this side, this has got white rot. Now I don't know whether it's to do with planting them out in spring or whether they just didn't have enough sunlight, but I do seem to suffer with white rot down here anyway with my onions. So it might just be something that's in the soil. So yeah, I'll take this to the brown waste at home rather than onto the compost heap, because I don't want that to spread throughout the plot. But with these guys, what I'll do is I'll pop them in the shed and they'll just dry out over the next couple of weeks, and you should start to, these bits will go all papery and it will start to seal around this point just like an onion, and then you can start chopping this off. But it does take a little while for these to dry out properly, but they'll just be popped in the shed and they'll be absolutely fine. So just to give you an idea of what the white rot is, so if that focuses on, you can see that you get this fuzzy sort of mould over the top of your, this is garlic, but on your onions as well, and then that rots right into here. And then as soon as the rot starts to get into here, you know that these aren't going to store very well. So you can sometimes rub these back and it hasn't affected the bulb too much, you might be okay. But if you're a little squeamish, I would just chuck these out. When you've just picked your garlic, I wouldn't start scrubbing the dirt off straight away. I'd let it dry off a little bit and let that get a bit papery, because if you start rubbing the dirt away now, you might start taking some of those layers off and it might damage the actual garlic bulbs. So just leave them a couple of weeks in the shed or somewhere dry, and then you should be able to start rubbing that dirt off quite easily. As we're due quite a bit of rain this week, I might go and harvest the onions. If you leave them out in the rain, they might start to rot, so I'll get those in and then we can pop those in the shed as well to dry off with the garlic. So other than a few of them being deformed, that's not too bad a harvest. There was only 2 that had the white rot. So that is white rot on an onion, all of that fuzzy mould stuff. Every year I get white rot, so I thought planting them out in the spring might stop them sitting in the moist soil, but that doesn't seem to have done it. So I might just have it in the soil, so I need to think about what I'm going to do in the future. But overall, most of those onions are not too bad. I think once they dry out, they should look a little bit neater and tidier. There are a few in there which are a bit mangled, so they'll just go home and we'll eat fresh. But we'll get these all laid out with the garlic on a rack in the shed so they can dry out nicely over the next few weeks. Just a little tip, when you're pulling your onions, don't pull them literally, because you will damage the root system down at the bottom, which could affect its storage. So I would always go under just lightly with a fork and just pry it up ever so slightly and gently. This one's in there quite strong. There we go. Because if you pull around this bit too much, you can damage, I think it's the basil of the plant, which then can affect the actual bulb when you've stored it. So just do go careful when you're pulling your onions. As much as I love the dainty little white flowers all over this feverfew, it has turned into a bit of a beast, so I do need to pull this out. The plan was to have a beetroot bed, but we've only managed to get half, so we're going to get this out and hopefully sow some more beetroot for later in the year. Managed to have a real good clear up today. So whilst harvesting the onions and the garlic, I've managed to clear 1, 2, 3 beds. Also the parsnips coming out has made a big difference, so I can start thinking about what I'm going to plant in there tomorrow. I've also got rid of the feverfew, so that was taking up quite a bit of space, so I can think about what I'm going to sow in there as well. And I've still got a few more beds that I need to clear tomorrow. So that's the broad beans. They're well and truly gone over now. So I'll harvest the last of the pods off, and then they can dry in the shed. And then the ones that are already starting to go over, they'll just go straight onto the compost heap. And then we've also got the 2 onion beds that are under the elder tree, so I can clear those out tomorrow and start to think about my last summer sowings. So that's things like beetroot, spring onions, radishes, lettuce. I might even try planting out a pumpkin or a squash or 2. It might be a little bit late, but we'll soon find out. But I'll give you a little rundown of the different seeds that I'm going to be sowing tomorrow in a little update. As much as I loved the parsnip and all the benefits that it brought to the insects, it just looks a lot more tidier now we've got rid of all of that. That's all we've got time for today, folks. I'm going to be popping to a few garden centres tomorrow. I need to get some soil and also some seeds. So tomorrow's going to be a seed sowing day, and I'll see what other bargains I can pick up in the form of plants as well. So I hope you'll join me for another day down the plot tomorrow, and we'll get some seed sown. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment and all of that good stuff, and I'll see you all again soon. Have a good week guys, take care, bye bye.